Hello book lovers, and welcome back or welcome to Nat Cat's Bookish Cafe. Today I am here to go through my fall TBR. Alright guys, a season is coming to an end once again, which means I am looking forward to seeing what I'm going to be reading in the next season. I know that it is September and a lot of people kind of count September as a fall month, and I do a little bit, but October and November are really the 2 months where I'm gravitating a lot more to those more spooky or mysterious, darker reads. In this video, I'm going to be going through 10 books that I own on my physical shelves that I really want to get to. When I was making this list, I was about a month or so into a pretty good audiobook slump, so I didn't really want to add any audiobooks to this because I didn't really know how many I would be getting through. However, the last few days I have started to get out of that slump, so I may make a second video that'll come out not until October if I do that, where I talk about some kind of thrillery, mystery, spooky audiobooks that I'm hoping to get to. But without further ado, let's go through those 10 books that I really want to get to in the month of October and November. The first book on this list could be considered a classic, and that is Interview with a Vampire by Anne Rice. I possibly could have put this on my fall TBR last year. I don't know. I had kind of wanted to read it last year and just never got around to it. I did end up watching the movie for the first time last year and felt kind of lukewarm about it, so I guess my interest in the book waned a little bit because of that. However, it is one of those classic kind of Halloween books that I do want to check out. I have tried Anne Rice in the past and found the work that she made relatively problematic and therefore DNF'd her, but this is her most well-known work and I haven't heard anything problematic about it, so I'm gonna give her a second chance. We are following a man who gets turned into a vampire, and years later I believe he is getting interviewed by someone about his life as a vampire. I haven't read the synopsis for a while, but I figured between this being such a well-known book and having watched the movie, I don't really want to go in knowing any more than I already do. Up next, we have a book that isn't really fall vibes or Halloween vibes. It's just a book that I really need to get to because things are just getting out of hand that I haven't continued this series, and that is The Broken Kingdoms. I believe that's what it's called. Let me triple double check here. Broken Kingdoms, yes. So I already read the first book up to this tab here back in December of 2022. Yep. So the last thing I want is to drag this into December of 2023 because this is a high fantasy story. So obviously the more time passes, the more details I am forgetting. This is by N.K. Jemisin, and we are following a woman who is the daughter of a woman who was part of a very prominent family. She was kind of supposed to inherit the throne. They're not really royalty, but they're very much in control, and she abdicated that throne so that she could marry a man from a lesser kingdom. At the beginning of this book, her daughter is being asked to come to the capital to visit her grandfather, and he wants her to join a competition to see who becomes the next heir to the throne. She's going up against her two cousins who have been preparing for this their entire lives, and she's feeling like she's going to lose She's going to die. She doesn't want to do this at all. She's ill prepared for it. However, she luckily has some allies within this capital, and those are gods that are being held prisoner by this family. I didn't quite enjoy the first book. I think I gave it 4 stars, and the way it ended, I was intrigued to know where the story was going. So I really want to get to it so that I can continue to make progress in this series, especially since I really want to read all of N.K. Jemisin's work, and I've made 0 progress in that goal this year. Up next, we have a book that was an anticipated release for me. I think it came out late last year, and I haven't read it because just because something's an anticipated release for me doesn't mean that I'm going to prioritize it. In fact, I'm very bad at prioritizing things I really want to read. I think it's my habit of saving things I really like for last, almost like a little treat when I could just read them. And that is Silver Under Nightfall by Rin Chapeko. This is a book that in the last couple months or so, I've seen a few more people picking it up and enjoying it. So I'm definitely excited to get to this book. We are following a vampire hunter who is rumored to also be a half vampire. He's being tasked with hunting a new breed of vampire that is more dangerous than the previous breed, and he ends up teaming up with a vampiric couple, and that couple kind of takes him into their relationship. So this is a polyamorous vampiric book. I have never read from this author or anything, but I am very optimistic about enjoying this book. It's queer, it has vampires, it's probably going to be a little bit darker and grimier, so I have a feeling it's the perfect read for this time of year. Up next, we have What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher. This is another author that I keep hearing wonderful things about. I feel like almost everyone who tries her books likes her work, or at least a few pieces of her work, since she has so much out there. This one is super duper short, and I believe it's based off of The Fall of the House of Usher, I think is what it's called. I have to admit, I'm not familiar with that story, so that tells me literally nothing. It seems that we are following a soldier. I believe they are non-binary, and they receive a letter from a friend of theirs that they are dying. So they go to this friend's house and start to realize that there's a lot of weird stuff happening to the house and the people within it. And so he starts working with some other people to try to figure out just what the heck is going on. I have a feeling that it's going to be beautifully written, and that it's going to be nice and eerie and just a good fall vibe. The 5th book on this list is The Push by Ashley Audrain. This is a story about a mother who is having trouble connecting to her daughter. She was very excited about the birth, but as soon as the child was born, she felt that there was something wrong with the child, and this just seems to escalate throughout the story. The topic of mothers not connecting to their children, or the child-mother relationship with a horror twist, is something that really intrigues me. So that is why I've been so drawn to this book. I've had it on my shelf for a while, and I am definitely eager to get to it. The next book on this list is Hell Followed With Us by Andrew Joseph White. This is a post-apocalyptic cult story. We are following a trans boy named Benji, who used to be part of a cult that released the monster that caused Armageddon on Earth. Benji has some sort of creature within him, so of course when he runs away, his cult runs after him to hunt him down so that they can get this creature back. Benji is saved by a group of queer teens and is told that as long as he can contain that monster, he can stay with them. But the more time he spends there, he starts to wonder if the leader of this group has ulterior motives for letting him stay. So I've heard really great things about the story. I really do enjoy books with trans representation in them. Cults are to a degree intriguing to me. I haven't done a lot of research on them or read a lot of books with them, but a cult being responsible for the end of the world is an interesting concept to me. So I'm interested to get to, I believe it's a YA story, but it also seems like it's going to have some good horror aspects to it. Book number 7 is a well-known and well-beloved vampire story, and that is Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson. This is a book that's supposed to have really beautiful writing to it. It's supposed to be really moving. We are following the first bride of Dracula as she falls in love with him and starts to realize that she is an abusive relationship. We also see Dracula's other brides, or grooms, I guess, since there's both men and women, and we see her love for them throughout the story as well. There's a part of me that wants to say that this book is a letter that she's writing to Dracula after she killed him, explaining why she needed to do that. So I'm very intrigued by the story. I definitely want to annotate it just based off the beautiful writing everyone says it has, and the fall seems like the perfect time to read this. Up next we have Sundial by Catriona Ward. I believe this is the same author who wrote House on Needless Street, which is another book I'm interested in, but I guess this will be the first book of hers that I check out. This has a similar theme as The Push does, where it kind of talks about a mother-daughter relationship, but make it kind of horror, kind of drenched in paranoia. We have a mother who is starting to wonder if there's something wrong with her oldest daughter. I believe her daughter is kind of collecting bones and seems to be maybe talking to people that aren't there. And the mother's family has a bit of a dark history, and she's worried that that dark history is catching up to her daughter. So she takes her to the desert. It also seems that we may read from the daughter's point of view as well, since the synopsis kind of stated that the daughter realizes going into this desert that only one of them may return. So it sounds like an interesting concept. It's not too long, so hopefully I'll be able to get to it this season. All right, and we're at our second to last book, and that is The Haunting of Ashbourne House by Darcy Coates. Darcy Coates is an author that I've heard a lot about. I want to say people say her horror is like more cozy horror, rather than like really horror. So I figured it might be up my lane since I am a bit of a scaredy cat. In this book, we seem to be following a woman who's down on her luck and inherits a house that everyone else wants to avoid, but she kind of sees this as her salvation, as a place to actually live. Unfortunately, she starts to realize that it's more a curse than a salvation. I don't know too much else about this book. I recently saw another YouTuber read it and they didn't like it. So I'm definitely a bit nervous going into it. Haunted house books are a bit a hit or miss with me. I've liked them in the past. I was bored by them in the past, so we'll see where this one falls. All right, guys, and we are on to the final book on this list, and that is The Ruins by Scott Smith. This is a horror that I've seen quite a few people read and enjoy. It seems to take place in Mexico, where we're following some tourists who decide to go into the jungle, I believe after some missing friends of theirs, and then they stumble across some ruins, and there they meet their doom, I guess. Lots of bad things happen, maybe monsters, maybe the jungle comes to life. I do like nature horror, so I'm hoping that that plays at least a bit of a role in this story. But overall, I think this is the book that's the most horror on my list, so I'm very excited to dip my toe into that genre. All right guys, so those are the 10 physical books I'm desperate to get onto my TBR this October and November. Let me know down below if you've read any of them and which ones I really need to prioritize. I'd also love to know what books you're hoping to get to this spooky season. As always, thank you so much for your support by watching my videos, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!